Show more 9:18 p.m. The following letter was discovered in 1909, sealed inside a tin tobacco box, wedged between two collapsed timbers in the abandoned Hartley Coal Seam, County Durham, England. The handwriting grows fainter toward the final pages. The letter was never delivered. To my dearest Eleanor, my beloved wife, and to my children, Thomas, little Mary, and the baby you carry still. If these words find you, then God has shown mercy on this paper, even where he could not show it on me. I am writing by the light of a single oil lamp, and I do not know how long the oil will last. I do not know how long I will last. But I write, because to stop writing would be to stop believing that someone someday will read these words. And that belief, Eleanor, fragile and trembling as a candle in a mine shaft, is the only light I have left that does not burn oil. It is the 14th of March, 1889. I know the date because I scratched it into the wall beside me with my pick when the roof first came down. That was, I believe, 2 days ago now, though time moves strangely when there is no sun to count by. There is no morning here, there is no evening. There is only the dark and the sound of the mountain breathing and the slow, patient weight of 10,000 tons of earth pressing down upon the timbers above my head. I want you to know before anything else, before the fear creeps into these sentences and you can hear it between my words, I want you to know that I am not yet dead. I am cold, I am hungry, my right hand is cut from where a falling stone caught it when the first blast went, and it has stiffened now so that holding this pencil is something close to agony. But I am breathing, I am thinking, I am here, and I am thinking of you. The shaft came down without warning. Eleanor, I want you to understand that it was not carelessness. We had checked the timbers that morning, Ewan and myself, the way we always do. We tapped them and listened for the hollow sound, that low wooden groan that tells you something is wrong beneath the surface. They sounded solid, they sounded the way good timber should. And then perhaps an hour after second shift began, there was a sound I can only describe as the mountain clearing its throat, a deep resonant cracking that seemed to come from everywhere at once, from the walls and the ceiling and the floor itself. And then the world fell inward. I was thrown forward, my lamp swung and shattered against the wall. Dust, thick, black, suffocating dust rolled over me like a wave, and for a long moment I could not breathe, could not see, could not think. I lay on the ground and pressed my face against the cold stone floor and simply waited to be buried. But the falling stopped, and I was still alive. I called out for Ewan. His name echoed back to me from the walls, changed into something hollow and unfamiliar, the way your voice sounds when you call into an empty church. There was no answer. I have called for him every few hours since. There is still no answer. I do not let myself think too long about what that silence means. The section I am trapped in is perhaps 15 feet long. I know this because I have walked its length in the darkness more times than I can count, one hand trailing the wall, feeling for cracks, for air movement, for any sign that there is a way through. At one end the roof has collapsed completely, great slabs of stone and broken timber piled from floor to ceiling, dense and immovable. At the other end, the same. I am in a pocket, Eleanor. A small underground room that the mountain made for me, and I cannot tell if it made it out of mercy or cruelty. I found a small stream of air coming through a gap in the eastern wall, too small to see through, barely wide enough to press a finger into, but it is there. That thin thread of air is the reason I am still breathing. I speak to it sometimes in the dark, when the silence becomes too heavy to carry alone. I tell it to keep coming. I tell it that I am not finished yet. There is water too, thank God. It seeps down the northern wall in a thin black trickle, and I have pressed my lips against the stone and drunk from it the way a man drinks from a river after a long summer walk. It tastes of iron and cold earth. I have never tasted anything so wonderful. I found my jacket bundled under a broken cart. I must have set it there before the blast, the way I always do when the work gets heavy, and I have wrapped it around my shoulders. It is not enough against the cold. Nothing down here is enough against the cold. It comes up through the stone floor, through the soles of my boots, into my bones. My teeth chatter so badly when it gets worst that I have to press my jaw shut with my hand to stop the noise. I do this not because the sound bothers me, it does not, but because silence is how I listen. Silence is how I might hear them digging. I have heard nothing yet, But I believe they are coming. I have to believe they are coming, Eleanor, because the alternative, the thought that the world above has gone on without me, that men have walked over this ground, shaken their heads, and turned away, that thought is more crushing than the stone. Your father worked this seam for 30 years. He knows how these collapses sound. He knows where the pockets form. If anyone up there is thinking clearly, it is him, and he will think of where I might be. He will point at the map and say, "There, try there." I hold on to that thought the way I am holding this pencil, tightly, desperately, as though letting go means the end of everything. I am going to rest now. The oil in this lamp is lower than I would like, and I must be careful with it. But before I close my eyes, let me tell you what I see when I close them. I see our kitchen on a Sunday morning. I see the light coming through the east window, the way it falls across the table in long gold bars, the way the steam rises from the kettle. I see Thomas sitting on the floor with his wooden horse, moving it in slow circles the way he does. I see little Mary with her head tilted to one side, watching the dust move in the sunlight. I see you, Eleanor, standing at the stove, humming something I cannot quite name, turning to look at me and smiling, the way you smile when you do not know anyone is watching. I am coming home to that kitchen. I have decided, but just in case this letter travels faster than I do, I want you to know what I would have said if I had said it more often. I love you. Not the way a man says it across a supper table because it is expected, the way a man feels it at the bottom of a coal mine, in the dark, with nothing left but the truth, completely, without exception, without end. I am going to sleep now. When I wake, I will listen for them again. The oil lamp burns lower now. The handwriting in this section is slightly smeared, as though the paper was held too close to a damp wall. Some words are written over twice, pressed harder into the page, as though the writer feared they might disappear. I do not know what day it is anymore. I scratched a new mark into the wall this morning, or what I believe was morning, judging only by the strange way my body insists on waking after a long stillness, the way it always has, even here, even without the sun. 3 marks now beside the date, 3 long lines in the stone. I stare at them sometimes and think how strange it is that a man's life can be reduced to scratches, that everything I am, everything I have lived and loved and carried, 34 years of it, can be measured here by 3 lines on a wall. I have been thinking about the other men. There were 14 of us on second shift. I have gone through each name slowly, carefully, the way you count coins when you know there are not enough. Ewan McAllister, who worked the seam beside mine and always smelled of pipe tobacco, and who sang badly, terribly, wonderfully, while he swung his pick. Old Brennan, who had been down this mine longer than some of the timbers, who knew its sounds the way a man knows his own heartbeat. Young Callum, barely 16, still learning the difference between a safe ceiling and a dangerous one. His mother used to wait for him at the pit gate every evening. I used to watch her from a distance and think that love looks exactly like that, standing still in the cold, watching for someone. I wonder if she is standing there now. I wonder if you are standing somewhere, Eleanor, watching for me. I have to believe the others found pockets too. I have to believe that somewhere in this collapsed dark, in some other small room that the mountain made, Ewan is sitting against the wall, conserving his air, listening. I call out for him still. Every few hours I press my face close to the gap in the eastern wall, and I call his name into whatever is beyond it. The sound comes back to me changed and strange, but I call anyway, because the day I stop calling is the day I admit something I am not ready to admit. The cold has gotten worse. I did not think that was possible, but the mountain has proven me wrong in many things these past days. It settles into you differently down here, Eleanor, not like the cold outside, which slaps you and moves on. This cold sits, it finds the gaps in your clothing, the places where your shirt has come untucked, the inside of your wrists, the back of your neck, and it settles there like something living. My fingers have gone stiff, not the right hand only now, but both. I have to stop writing at intervals and press my hands flat against my chest, under my jacket, and wait for the feeling to return. It comes back slowly, reluctantly, like a man who does not want to return to a difficult job. I have been moving more, walking the length of my small room, back and forth, dragging my hand along the wall. It helps with the cold. It helps with something else too, something harder to name. The feeling that comes when you sit still too long in the dark. a kind of heaviness that is not tiredness exactly, more like the mind beginning to turn inward and find things there it would prefer not to see. I think about mistakes, Eleanor, in the dark. Every man does, I imagine, when there is nothing else to occupy the mind. Small ones, mostly. The winter I spent 3 weeks' wages on a horse that turned out to be lame. The argument with your father before our wedding that I never fully resolved. The words left sitting between us for years like furniture nobody wanted to move. The evenings I came home from the mine tired and short-tempered, when Thomas would reach for me and I would say, "Not now, son. Not now," and the way his face would arrange itself into something careful and quiet, the way children's faces do when they are learning not to need too much. God, I wish I could take back every "not now." I would sit with him for 1,000 evenings. I would let him climb on me and pull my hair and demand stories until midnight. I would give him every now I ever withheld, with interest, if only the mountain would open and let me out. The lamp is very low. I made a decision this morning that I have been putting off because making it means accepting something I do not wish to accept. I am going to extinguish the lamp. Not permanently, I tell myself not permanently, but I must save what little oil remains for when I need it most. For when I hear them digging and I need to write quickly, to leave a final message, or for the moment if it comes, please God let it come, when I need the light to guide them to me. So I will sit in the dark. I want to tell you what that is like, because I think it is something no person who has not experienced it can truly imagine. Above ground, there is no true darkness. Even in the deepest night, there is always something, starlight through a curtain, the orange glow of a distant town, the way the sky holds a memory of daylight long after the sun has gone. You do not notice it until it is gone. Down here, when the lamp goes out, the darkness is absolute, complete. It has weight, it has texture. You hold your hand before your face, and you cannot see it, and there is a moment, every time, even now, when some animal part of you insists that your hand is not there, that you are not there, that perhaps you have already ceased to exist, and simply have not been informed. I breathe through those moments. I count my breaths. 1, 2, 3. I am here. I am real. I am Thomas's father. I am Mary's father. I am the father of a child not yet born, who does not know my name. I am real. There is something I must tell you, and I have been avoiding it, the way I avoid all things that require courage. On the first day, when the dust had settled, and I had established that I was alone in this pocket, I searched the space as thoroughly as I could by lamplight. I was looking for tools, for food, for anything useful. What I found instead, in the far corner near the eastern wall, half covered by fallen stone, was a man's boot. Just the one boot. I did not look further. I covered it with a piece of broken timber, and I have not gone to that corner since. I tell myself it means nothing. I tell myself a man can lose a boot in a collapse and survive it perfectly well, and be standing right now at the pit head, drinking tea and waiting to be reunited with his footwear. I tell myself this very firmly, every time my mind moves toward that corner in the dark, but I have not gone back. I have been rationing the water carefully. The trickle down the northern wall seems consistent. It has not slowed, which I take as a good sign, though I am no geologist, and my understanding of what it means is limited to hope. I drink small amounts at regular intervals, pressing my lips to the stone the way I described before. It has become a kind of ritual, almost comforting. A proof that the world above still exists, that rain still falls somewhere, that water still moves through the earth the way it always has, indifferent and patient and unstoppable. I find comfort in indifferent things down here. The water that does not care about me. The air through the gap that does not know my name. They keep coming anyway. They do not require anything from me. They simply continue, the way the world continues, and I am grateful for their company. I heard something this morning, or I believe I did. I cannot be certain. The darkness plays strange games with the ears. Eleanor sounds come from nowhere, from the walls themselves, from inside your own head. I have heard my name called more than once, clearly, distinctly, and pressed my face to the eastern gap and shouted back, and heard nothing in return. I have heard knocking that turned out to be the settling of stone. I have heard once what sounded exactly like a child laughing, and I sat very still for a long time afterward, and breathed carefully and told myself it was the wind through the rock. But this morning's sound was different. It was rhythmic. A steady, distant percussion, felt more in the chest than heard with the ears. A vibration in the stone beneath my hands. It could be natural. Stone shifts, rock settles, the earth has its own rhythms that have nothing to do with men and their small lives. But it could be picks. I have been pressing my ear to the floor every hour since, lying full length on the cold stone with my cheek against it, listening. The sound comes and goes. I cannot tell if it is growing closer. I cannot tell if I am inventing it from desperation. But it is there, or it was there, and that is more than I had yesterday. Eleanor, if they are coming when they are coming, I need you to know that I have not been afraid. Not in the way I would have expected. I thought fear, real fear, the kind that lives with you for days, would be loud, frantic. I thought it would be the way it was in the first hours after the collapse, when my heart was hammering and my hands were shaking and I could not make myself be still. But that kind of fear burned through its fuel quickly. What replaced it was something quieter, something that sits beside you rather than inside you. A calm, almost gentle awareness of every breath, every heartbeat, every small sensation, the cold floor beneath me, the smell of coal dust and damp stone, the rough grain of this paper under my fingers. I have never been so aware of being alive. I want to remember that if I get out. I want to carry it up with me into the light and keep it somewhere safe and take it out on the evenings when I am tired and short-tempered and a small boy is reaching for me. I want to remember what it felt like to be 30 feet underground with nothing but the sound of my own heart, and to know beyond argument, beyond doubt, that the heartbeat was enough, that it was everything. The rhythmic sound has stopped. I am lying on the floor with my ear against the stone, and there is nothing now but silence and my own breathing. I do not know what that means. I have decided it means they have stopped for the night, that they will rest and eat and hold their families, and then in the morning they will come back and begin again. And tomorrow or the day after that, I will hear the sound grow closer until it is unmistakable, until I can shout and they will shout back, until the wall opens and the light comes through. I have decided this. It is the only decision available to me. The lamp is out now. I am writing this in complete darkness, by feel alone, and I cannot promise that these words are sitting on the lines the way they should. I cannot promise the letters are forming correctly. My hand moves across the page, and I trust it to know what it is doing, the way you trust a thing you have done 10,000 times. I am going to rest again. Before I do, I am going to say the names, Thomas, Mary, Eleanor, and the name we have not chosen yet, for the one who is coming. I am going to come home and help choose that name. I have decided that too. But if I cannot, if this letter moves faster than I do, as I said before, then let the child be named whatever you feel is right. You have always known better than me in matters of the heart. Name them something that sounds like morning, something that sounds like light coming through a window, something that sounds like everything I am fighting toward. The final section of the letter is written on the back of a folded piece of timber inventory paper, the kind used by mine foremen to track supply orders. The pencil strokes are uneven, deep in some places, barely visible in others. Several words have been written over and over, pressed into the page with what must have been the last of the writer's strength. At the bottom of the final page, the handwriting changes completely. It becomes very small, very careful, as though the writer was trying to make every letter last. I do not know if it is day or night. I have stopped scratching marks into the wall. Not because I have given up. I want you to understand that, Eleanor, before anything else, but because my hands will not cooperate the way they once did. And the effort of crossing the room to the wall costs more than I can afford to spend on something that no longer matters. The days are the days. There have been enough of them. That is all I need to know. I have been thinking about my father. He worked this same seam, as you know. 31 years. He went down into this earth so many times that I used to wonder as a boy whether he had stopped belonging to the surface altogether, whether he was more comfortable in the dark than in the light. He never spoke much about what it was like down there. Men of his generation did not speak about such things. They carried it quietly, the way they carried everything, the weight distributed evenly across the shoulders, the face arranged into something unreadable. I used to think that was strength. I understand now that it was simply habit, that there are things which cannot be put into words, and so a man learns to put them into silence instead, and carries the silence so long it begins to feel the same as peace. But I think he was afraid sometimes, I think every man who goes into the earth is afraid sometimes. And I think he never said so, because saying so would have made it real, and making it real would have made the going down each morning impossible. I am saying it now, Father. Wherever you are, I am afraid. I am not ashamed of it anymore. The rhythmic sound returned this morning. I am almost certain of it, more certain than I was before. It is closer, or it feels closer, which I acknowledge may be a different thing entirely, a trick of desperation and darkness, and a mind that has been underground too long. But I pressed my ear to the floor and I held my breath, and it was there, that low, patient percussion moving through the stone like a slow heartbeat, and I allowed myself, for the first time since the first day, to feel something close to real hope. Not the thin, careful hope I have been rationing like lamp oil. Something larger, something that moved through my chest the way warmth moves through a man who comes inside from the cold. I shouted until my voice gave out. I pressed my face to the eastern gap, and I shouted Ewan's name, and then the names of every man I could remember from the shift, and then just the word here, 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 over and over, until my throat was raw and the word had lost all meaning and become just a sound, an animal sound, the sound a man makes when he needs to be found. I do not know if it reached anyone. I do not know if sound travels through this particular configuration of stone and timber and debris the way I need it to. I only know that I could not stay silent. The sound was there and I had to answer it. Afterward I lay on the floor for a long time and waited for my breathing to slow. Eleanor, I want to tell you about something that happened in the dark last night that I have been turning over in my mind ever since, uncertain whether to write it down. I am going to write it down because I have decided that honesty is the only thing left that costs me nothing. I was lying on my back, in the full dark, with my jacket pulled over my chest, and I was thinking about the kitchen again. Our kitchen, the Sunday morning light, and somewhere between thinking and sleeping, I reached a place that was neither, a kind of still, bright interval that did not feel like dreaming. And in that interval, I saw my mother. She has been gone 11 years, as you know. She was standing at the end of the room, the way she used to stand in the doorway of our old house in the evenings, with the light behind her so that her face was partly in shadow. She did not say anything. She only looked at me the way she used to look at me when I was a boy, and had done something that frightened her, that particular look that contains an entire conversation without a single word. Relief and terror and love, all occupying the same expression. And then she was not there. I lay still for a long time afterward. I do not know what it means. Perhaps it means nothing. A starving mind in the dark will make whatever it needs from whatever it has. Perhaps it means something I do not have the courage to name. But it was not frightening, Eleanor. Whatever it was, dream, vision, the mind's last mercy, it was not frightening. She looked at me, and I felt for just a moment like a boy again, small and certain that someone who loved me knew exactly where I was. I held on to that feeling for as long as I could. My right hand is very bad now. I have been switching to my left for long passages, which is why some of what you are reading has the quality of a child's first attempts at letters. The cut from the first day has done something I do not want to describe in detail. Suffice to say that the cold and the dark have not been kind to it, and the pain has moved from the hand up into the arm in a way that concerns me. I keep it pressed against my chest as much as possible and try not to think about it. This is, I have discovered, a broadly applicable strategy for underground survival. Try not to think about it. Think instead about Sunday mornings. Think about the way steam rises from a kettle. Think about the particular sound of small boots on a stone floor. Think about the name that sounds like morning. I have found one, Eleanor. In all this dark and cold and silence, I have found a name. If the child is a boy, William, for my father, and for no other reason except that my father was a good man who went into the earth every day of his life and came back up again, and I would like my son to carry that as a reminder that it can be done, that men go into dark places and return. If the child is a girl, I have been saying it in the darkness, quietly, the way you test a word to see if it fits. Rose. Because when I close my eyes and try to remember every good thing, every warm and certain and beautiful thing, what I see is the roses that grew along the back wall of your mother's house. The summer we were married. Do you remember them? How they were completely impractical, climbed over everything, left thorns in the washing, and were so beautiful it almost hurt to look at them in the morning light. That is what I want for her, to be impractical and climbing and beautiful, to be impossible to ignore. William or Rose, write it down somewhere, Eleanor. Keep it safe. I have to stop writing for a moment. The sound in the stone has changed. It is not the same rhythm as before. It is faster now, more irregular, and it is coming. I am almost sure it is coming from the western wall. The blocked end, the place where the collapse is deepest. I have moved across the room and pressed both hands flat against the stone, and I can feel it, not just hear it, feel it. A vibration that travels up through the palms and into the wrists, unmistakable now, nothing like settling stone, nothing like the earth's own internal movements. That is men with picks and shovels, and the stubborn, furious love of other men who refuse to leave someone behind. I am going to do something now that I have not allowed myself to do since the first day, because I was afraid of what it would cost me if I was wrong. I am going to believe that I am going to see you again. Not carefully, not provisionally, not with one hand held back in case I need it to brace against disappointment. Completely. The way I believed in things when I was young and had not yet learned to be afraid of hope. I am going to believe it the way Thomas believes the wooden horse is real when he rides it across the kitchen floor, absolutely, without question, with his whole small self committed to the truth of it. I am going to see you again. I am going to come through whatever stands between me and that wall, and the wall is going to open, and the light is going to come through, and it is going to be the most violent and wonderful thing I have ever seen. And I am going to climb out of this earth, the way my father climbed out of it, every day for 31 years, as though it is simply what a man does, as though it is ordinary. I am going to stand in the air, real air, moving air, novel air that smells of coal smoke and wet grass, and the particular cold of a March evening in County Durham, and I am going to breathe it until my lungs cannot hold any more. And then I am going to walk home. The vibration in the wall is very strong now. I can hear something, voices, I think, though I cannot make out words, cannot be sure they are not the echo of my own longing. I am going to shout again. I am going to put this pencil down and press my face against the wall and shout your name, Eleanor. Not because it will help them locate me, they are following the seam, they know where I must be, but because it is your name and it is the truest thing I know, and I need to say it into the stone of this mountain and let it travel. But first, before I put this pencil down, in case I do not pick it up again, in case this letter is all that remains of what I wanted to say, let me finish. I have lived a good life, Eleanor. Smaller than some, larger than others, ordinary in all the ways that matter, and extraordinary in the ones that count. I have loved you, I have held our children. I have eaten bread warm from the oven, and drunk cold water on a hot afternoon, and watched the sun set from the top of Harker's Hill on an evening in July, and felt completely, without reservation, that being alive was enough. That being alive was everything. If they reach me, tell no one that I was afraid. Tell them I kept busy. Tell them I thought of practical things. Tell Thomas his father thought of him every hour. Tell Mary that she is already everything a person can hope to be. Tell the one who is coming, William or Rose, that their father was underground in the dark for 4 days and spent every moment of it looking forward to meeting them. The voices are closer now. I think I can almost. Eleanor, I can hear them. I can hear them calling my name through the stone, and it is the most beautiful sound I have ever. The letter ends here. The final line breaks off mid-sentence. The pencil mark trails across the lower corner of the page, as though the writer set it down suddenly. Or dropped it. What happened to the man who wrote these words, in that pocket of darkness beneath the Hartley Seam, on that March evening in 1889, whether the wall opened, whether the light came through, whether he walked home, the letter does not say. It never says. And perhaps that is exactly as it should be. Some doors are meant to stay closed. Some lights are meant to keep us searching. The tobacco tin that held this letter was found 60 years later, during the seam's final excavation. Beside it, scratched into the wall in unsteady letters, were 2 words that the excavation team recorded in their report and then did not speak of again. 2 words, nothing more. She's here.